As the World Burns, if there was a subtitle for this show, because it is just insane, huh?
Yeah, and it's just being allowed to burn, too.
I know. So let me jump right to that, because that really is our first topic, is to talk about that a little bit. And this was actually a couple of days ago. It wasn't this crazy when this quote came out. Shaun King, you know who Shaun King is?
I do.
All right. Black Lives Matter activist. We will have a photo there for you folks. You can see that in the thumbnail if you want to just watch the clip. So let me start with that. He has this great quote that he dropped on Twitter. He says, "Stop generically telling us to vote in response to all of the police brutality we have right now. Yes, we should vote, but we have to be very specific. Democrats, from top to bottom, are running the cities with the worst police brutality in America right now. We voted for them." Tough words.
Actually, I was really shocked when I heard this.
Yeah,
it's like,
let's see it.
This came out of Shaun King's mouth, but he's spot on.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a little bit of the speaking to the ignorant crowd. Like, you guys are in there going, we need to change, we need to vote, we need to change people. And he's like, well, all these people in charge are actual Democrats. So you're really going to be shocked when you're trying to figure out who you're supposed to vote for.
And we've seen it time after time after time. And the fact that Shaun King was able to see that also does leave me in shock.
Yeah, I went to Minnesota politics because Yahoo had a good report by George Korda. He's actually with the Knoxville News, one of the USA Today affiliates. And he says, below are some pertinent questions given the way the Democratic Party defines itself as being a party of tolerance and inclusion, and many Democrats' characterizations of Republicans or conservatives as racist or racially insensitive. Minneapolis, Minnesota has been under Democratic control since 1978. Chicago has been under Democratic control for 89 years. Its present mayor is a black woman. Philadelphia has had Democratic mayors for 68 years. 3 of the last 5 have been black men. 6 of the last 7 Atlanta, Georgia mayoral administrations were led by black Democratic mayors, and the present mayor is a black woman. Why aren't these cities garden spots of racial tolerance, understanding, and virtue?
Yeah, and one city that was really left off that list, probably the most recent big city that we saw burn, was Baltimore. And even back then, we saw it from the top. Mayor, police chief, every single layer was African American.
Yeah, and Freddie Gray, of course, was the big sort of like hoopla that rallied protests and those kinds of things, racial inequality, police brutality. We covered the Freddie Gray story pretty regularly, and I think most of the officers are minority, if not all of them.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's predominant. Yeah. So the question is, why?
Well, we already have some gasoline. Let's just pour it right on this fire.
Okay.
So let's go to Baltimore. This is from Chris Cuomo. You know, he's a hardcore righty, right?
Sure is.
He is, right? He's right of Ilhan Omar? Maybe?
I would say so. She's pretty far
I think
left.
Chris Cuomo's right of AOC. And probably right of Bernie.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
fair.
The right-wing Chris Cuomo had this to say about Baltimore during an interview with the black Baltimore City Councilman Nick Mosby. He says, quote, this is Cuomo, "Is this on you guys? The mayor is Democrat, you're a Democrat, 50 years of Democratic rule. This is an idea that you haven't gotten done as a party, as a structure. Let's focus on the blame." Mosby, "Leadership is not based off party lines." Let's just make some t-shirts right there.
There you go.
All right. At the very end of the day, have individuals failed in the city, in this state, in this country? Yes. Have there been failed policies? Yes. Have things adversely affected places like Baltimore? Yes. Yes. Well, whether you're talking about Reaganomics, whether you're talking about contraband, where they talk about stop and frisk procedures and mass incarceration, all of these things directly play into the recidivism and play into the things that plague these communities. They know that they're in on the problem as well, but nothing ever changes.
Yeah, and again, the question is why. I don't know why, other than the fact that they are very lenient on a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point you end up in like a vicious cycle, right? So you can say, you know, it's about race, but reality is it's about crime, right? So let's start with who's committing crime. Forget about race for a minute, because we're always trying to back engineer statistics for political expediency, but reality is let's just focus on that, and then where some of the core problems are. So for me, I would say, in my personal opinion, a lot of the core problems just stem with the family, right? So once the family disintegration started in the 60s, it exponentially increased during the 70s. You start to see more split black families, more men that are growing up without fathers. The statistics speak for themselves that a fatherless home is devastating on a man without regard to race, but especially in a black family, especially in a black family in a major metropolitan area. The jobs are very limited for a black woman that's single, that may be uneducated or have limited resources of what she can do, a child at home. You end up on just like a snowball effect in these inner cities, and I don't know what you do to fix that.
No, I'm 100% with you on that. The only problem is there's a lot of people in the African American community that don't want to discuss that aspect of it.
Sure.
They want to point fingers elsewhere, but there are people that are. Larry Elder and the people like that saying, listen, this is the core.
Yeah, and
this is the core, right?
There's Blexit. We talked about Blexit before. We've talked about Brandon Tatum. I think last week we talked about George Floyd and some of his theories. He's a co-founder of Blexit, and that there's a big movement in many in the black community. They've moved away from that sort of leftist ideology. They kind of feel like they're left without a home, because I'm not sure that they feel like the Republican GOP really are hearing them either. But when we come from a place where, for us, some of our iconic heroes are Walt Williams, Thomas Sowell, right? Who joke, by the way, if he and Walt were on the same plane together, the entire movement could have gone down at any time. So they shouldn't buy a plane together. So for many years,
it's true.
They are these two iconic black conservative libertarian economists who were discussing not only just pure economics but also social issues, trying to debunk things like white privilege and racism and affirmative action. So he's using their statistics. These are black men doing these things. Professors at George Mason, they're incredibly renowned. Now we've seen that grow. You mentioned Elder. There's been others. Even this newer crowd. I'm not going to dismiss Candace Owen and Brandon Tatum just because they're young. I don't know a ton about all of the things that they say and do, but I will say they're at least speaking to different folks that were being spoke to before.
Yeah, and it's a great thing. However, what do they get in response? Uncle Tom.
Yeah, thrown out of the thing.
Yeah. It never fails.
Yeah, Kanye West was the biggest story, and my family and I had a conversation about Kanye West. I was actually invited to come to a church, and we spent some time discussing socioeconomic issues, racism in the church, having welcome open arms to everyone, which I felt is right in my wheelhouse. Like, you and I have talked about this personally. This is me, the pastor. Like, I don't care about denomination, I don't care about how old you are, I don't care what you wear. And the pastor stopped the whole thing just to address the Kanye West example that I had given, because he's got the wrong hat on, man. He's got the red hat. So if you have the red hat on, man, you're not part of the club. And it was very telling of sort of like an underlying theme and bias, even in the churches. I mean, it's kind of sad, but that's kind of the case too, or some certain environment. We saw this over the weekend, right? We saw George Floyd's funeral. Al's up there, pounding the drum, man. Got to cash in. Got to pound the drum.
Yeah, this is his moment.
Yeah.
Again, in the sun.
So I came home, I saw my wife today. I had a very powerful moment today where I was spending my own time in devotion and prayer, and I had to lay it on my heart, when's the last time the Christians have prayed for Derek Chauvin? When have we prayed for George Floyd's family? When have we prayed, so it's always easy to pray for one another and pray for people that we like, but we should be praying also for the enemies, these people that may be filled with hate or evil, or need healing and just need Jesus. And reality is, you got black families that are suffering, black individuals that feel pushed down, and there are bad cops. There are always going to be bad cops, but you know what? There's not always racists that's behind that. They're just, some of them are just honestly great cops. They burned out, right?
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that too.
So as things have progressed, we know now we've got the situation with Minnesota itself. They're talking about outright disbanding the police, which the city council just went ahead and voted on that. Like, yeah, we'll do that. The lady went on CNN, I believe. Yeah, that's right. Camerata. Is that the host's name, I believe, for there?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically just said, yeah, we're good with that. And she said, well, what if someone's breaking into my house? What if a crime is being committed and I need to call the police? And she's like, well, I understand how you feel that way, but we're coming at it from a place of white privilege. And the world has kind of put her name out there too.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't understand the world that we're trying. Maybe that's it. It's that they're burning one world down, but they're not offering us a picture of what world they want to create. Is that kind of how you see it too?
Well, like everything else that they do, they take it to the umpteenth degree, and it's going to end up devouring them like every other policy that they take too far. I mean, what's going to happen to these cities without police?